Thailand. Thailand. Japan. Austria. Bangladesh. Switzerland. Kenya. Ecuador. Cuba. Jamaica. Belgium. Thailand. Thailand. Australia. Philippines. Mongolia. Thailand. Taiwan. Israel. Turkey. Thailand. Croatia. Jamaica. Thailand. Iceland. Ukraine. Hong Kong. Italy. Philippines. Brazil. Iraq. Thailand. France. Singapore. Thailand. Iceland. Thailand. Hong Kong. Thailand. Australia. Venezuela. Japan. Jamaica. South Korea. Thailand. Kenya. Indonesia. Thailand. Netherlands. South Korea. Thailand. South Korea. Saudi Arabia. South Korea. New Zealand. South Korea. Ireland. Thailand. South Korea. United Thailand. South Korea. Chile. South Korea. Kenya. Thailand. Paraguay. South Korea. Qatar. Austria. Thailand. Algeria. South Korea. Thailand. Paraguay. Thailand. South Korea. Thailand. Norway. Ghana. Japan. Thailand. Tunisia. Japan. Thailand. Portugal. Thailand. Thailand. Uzbekistan. Thailand. Japan. Thailand. Japan. Canada, Japan. Not Japan. Japan. Sweden, Thailand. Netherlands, Thailand, Japan. Laos, Japan. Thailand, Uzbekistan. Colombia, Japan. Spain, Thailand. Japan, Japan, Thailand. Japan, Iran. Thailand, Japan. Colombia, Japan. Thailand. Cambodia. Japan. Thailand. Japan, Japan. Ireland. Japan. Spain. Japan. Japan. France. Japan. Thailand. Japan. Netherlands. Japan. Thailand. India. Japan. 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 Thailand. Hong Kong. Thailand. Japan. Myanmar, Japan. Japan. Nigeria, Japan. Mongolia. Australia. Ireland. Japan. Ecuador. Japan. Kazakhstan. Japan. Japan. Portugal. Myanmar, Burma. United Kingdom, Pakistan. United States. Japan. Czechia, Canada. South Korea, Canada. Timor-Leste, Japan. South Korea, Canada. Qatar, Japan. Canada, Japan. 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 South Korea. United Japan. Peru. Japan. Japan. South Korea. Japan. United Kingdom. South Japan. United Japan. 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 Cambodia. Japan. 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 Vietnam. Japan. South Korea. Cambodia. Japan. Japan. Kenya. Japan. Iran. Japan. Paraguay. Poland. United States. Japan. Thailand. United States. Japan. Iraq. South Korea. France. Brazil. Kuwait. Philippines. Kuwait. Cambodia. Sri Lanka. Ghana. Egypt. Kenya. Thailand. China. United Arab Emirates. Indonesia. Ghana. South Africa. Thailand. Vietnam, Japan, Israel, Japan, Kazakhstan, Japan, Israel, Japan, Turkey, Japan, Norway, Japan, Japan, Poland, Japan, China, Japan, Cambodia, United Kingdom, United Kingdom, United Kingdom, Japan, United Kingdom, China, Japan, United Kingdom, Italy, Japan, Japan, Iran, Japan, Thailand, Japan, Japan, Thailand, Japan, Iran, Japan, Japan, Singapore, United Kingdom, United States, Japan, United Kingdom, Laos, Japan, Ukraine, Japan, Nepal, Japan, Thailand, United Kingdom, Indonesia, United Kingdom, Palestine, United Kingdom, United Kingdom, United Kingdom, Algeria, Thailand, United Kingdom, Thailand, Philippines, Thailand, Thailand, China, Thailand, United Kingdom, Iran, Philippines, United Kingdom, Turkey, Philippines, 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 Switzerland, Philippines, United Kingdom, Philippines, United, Philippines, Switzerland, United Kingdom, Philippines, Denmark, United Kingdom, Norway, Philippines, Singapore, Philippines, United Kingdom, Philippines, Philippines, Pakistan, Philippines, Brazil, Australia, Thailand, Ecuador, Bolivia, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, United States, Brazil, Taiwan, Brazil, Philippines, Brazil, Jamaica, Philippines, Brazil, Philippines, Brazil, Philippines, Brazil, Philippines, Bolivia, Philippines, Brazil, Bolivia, Brazil, Slovakia, Philippines, Bolivia, Colombia, Philippines, Brazil, Japan, Greece, Brazil, Philippines, Singapore, Bolivia, Philippines, United States, Brazil, United Philippines, Bolivia, Brazil, Japan, Bolivia, Japan, Russia, Brazil, Japan, Philippines, Norway, Brazil, Brazil, Japan, Philippines, Japan, Bolivia, Laos, Japan, Brazil, Bolivia, Japan, Ecuador, Brazil, Bolivia, Philippines, Denmark, Bolivia, Japan, Poland, Japan, United States, Brazil, United States, Japan, Malaysia, South Korea, Japan, India, Malaysia, Cuba,
Malaysia,
Bolivia, Philippines, United Philippines, Timor-Leste, Bolivia, United States, Kenya, Brazil, Bolivia, Philippines, Kenya, Portugal, Kenya, Russia, Argentina, Kenya, United States, Russia, France, Philippines, United States, Peru, Philippines, Japan, Norway, Philippines, United States, Japan, Nigeria, New Zealand, both United States, Japan, Cuba, Germany, Peru, United States, United States,
Singapore,
United States, Austria, Myanmar, Japan, China, United States, Germany, Kenya, Algeria, Philippines, United States, Germany, Philippines, United States, Philippines, Ecuador, Philippines, United States, Saudi, Germany, Japan, Russia, Jamaica, Kazakhstan, Philippines, Germany, both Philippines, Germany, Japan, Bangladesh, Germany, Brazil, Japan, Russia, Philippines, Jamaica, Germany, Kuwait, Philippines, Germany, Philippines, Nepal, Germany, Germany, Russia, Japan, Germany, Philippines, Germany, Philippines, Germany, Morocco, Indonesia, Germany, Colombia, Germany, Jamaica, Saudi Arabia, Japan, Germany, Mongolia, Indonesia,
Germany,
Germany, Qatar, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Laos, Japan, Philippines,
Argentina,
Germany, Vietnam, Philippines, Japan, Germany, Laos, Philippines, Netherlands, Japan, India, Japan, Philippines, Croatia, New
Palestine,
Japan, United Philippines, Saudi Arabia, Japan, Poland, Philippines, Bolivia, Thailand, Philippines, Myanmar, Philippines, Japan, Japan, Philippines, Cambodia, Philippines, Laos, Belgium, Philippines, Finland, Bangladesh, Croatia, Japan, China, Japan, Philippines, Mexico, Nepal, Nigeria, Philippines, Cuba, Japan, Indonesia, United States, Norway, Indonesia, Greece, United States, Japan, Philippines, Romania, United States, Japan, Canada, Japan, South, United States, Indonesia, South Korea, United States, Sri Lanka, Japan, Japan,
Nepal,
South Korea, Philippines, South Korea,
India,
Japan, United States, India, United States, Nepal, South United States, Japan, Japan, South Korea, Ghana, United States, Venezuela, United States, Japan, Canada, Japan, Canada, Japan, Japan, South Canada, Japan, Italy, Russia, South Korea, Japan, Brazil, South Korea, Japan, Russia, Philippines, United States, Japan, Colombia, Japan, China, South Korea, Japan, Belgium, South Korea, Thailand, Japan, South Korea, Japan, Turkey, Japan, South Korea, Japan, South Korea, South Chile, Russia, Japan,
Kazakh,
Japan, United States, Ireland, Japan, Vietnam, Russia, South Korea, Nepal, Qatar, Japan, South Korea, Japan, Myanmar, Japan, Russia, Nepal, Israel, Japan, Nepal, United States,
Nepal,
Japan, Russia, United States, Colombia, Japan, United States, Japan, Mongolia, United States, Ireland, Nepal, Croatia, Nepal, United States, Russia, Japan, Peru, Philippines, Hong Kong, United States, Japan, Nepal, Indonesia, Japan, Russia, Laos, Indonesia, Japan,
Nepal,
Japan, Indonesia, United States, South Korea, Japan, Nepal, Japan, Serbia, Nepal, Japan, Guernsey, Peru, Japan, Indonesia, Japan, Thailand, Indonesia, Japan, Jamaica, Nepal, Japan, Myanmar, Nepal, Japan, Kuwait, Nepal, Japan, Russia, South Japan, Indonesia, Japan, Nepal, Canada, Belgium, Algeria, Indonesia, Japan, Spain, Russia, Indonesia, Finland, India, Canada, India, Tunisia, Japan, Indonesia, Canada, Algeria, Japan, Indonesia, Canada, Japan, China, Indonesia, Germany, India, Japan, Canada, Japan, India, Algeria, Indonesia, Indonesia, Norway, Congo, Kinshasa, Indonesia, Nigeria, India, Spain,
Congo, Kinshasa,
Japan,
Algeria,
Chile, Congo, India,
Algeria,
United States, Algeria, India, United States, Japan, Nigeria, Japan, United States, Algeria, Peru, Indonesia, Nigeria, Algeria,
India,
Chile, Algeria, Japan, Japan, Algeria, Tunisia, India, Algeria, Germany,
Indonesia,
Greece, Algeria, Nigeria, Indonesia, Algeria, Canada, Ireland, Canada, Algeria, India, Japan, India, Nigeria, Algeria, Indonesia, India, Canada, Canada, India, Algeria, Ireland, Indonesia, Algeria, Canada, Japan, Indonesia, Canada, Ireland, Canada, Algeria, Bolivia, Algeria, Japan, Germany, India, Canada, Myanmar, Peru, India, Canada, Japan, India, Japan, Canada, Ireland, Canada, Germany, Ireland, Indonesia, Ireland, India, Canada, India, Israel, Ireland, India, Peru, Japan, Indonesia, Ireland, Hong Kong, Canada, Ireland, India, Canada, Germany, Ireland, Canada, Ireland, Germany, Chile, Ireland, Indonesia, India, Italy, Ireland, India, Vietnam, Canada, India, Ireland, India, Germany, Indonesia, Germany, Finland, Palestine, Ireland, Greece, Thailand, Vietnam, Ireland, Vietnam, Ireland, Germany, Thailand, Germany, Vietnam, Palestine, Germany, Palestine, Vietnam, Vietnam, Canada, Israel, India, Germany, Austria, Vietnam, Germany, Bulgaria, Palestine, Peru, Germany, Ecuador, Vietnam, South Korea, Germany, India, Palestine, Vietnam, Germany, Bangladesh, Vietnam, South Germany, South Korea, South Germany, Palestine, Vietnam, Philippines, Germany, South Korea, India, Colombia, Germany, South Korea, Germany, India, South Korea, Peru, Chile, South Korea, South India, Germany, Palestine, India, Peru, Germany, Sri Lanka, South United States, India, Peru, South Korea, Germany, South Korea, India, South Korea, India, Iceland, Palestine, Nepal, Germany, India, United States, India, Germany, South India, Austria, India, Germany, United States, India, Germany, South Korea, India, Germany, Peru, India, South Korea, United States, Palestine, South Germany, India, Palestine, Germany, India, Iceland, United States, Germany, Bulgaria, Peru, Bangladesh, Hungary, Germany, South Korea, Germany, Canada, Germany, Germany, South Korea, Germany, 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 Palestine, Germany, United South Korea, Germany, South Korea, Peru, Bangladesh, Germany, India, South Germany, Germany, India, Germany, South Korea, Peru, Germany, India, Peru, India, Germany, Ireland, South Korea, South Korea, United Greece, United States, India, South Korea, Peru, South Korea, India, Cuba, Palestine, South Korea, India, South United States, Peru, India, South Korea, United States, United States, United States, India, South Korea, United States, United States, Palestine, India, South United States, India, South Korea, United States, South Korea, Canada, India, Serbia, Canada, South Korea, India, United States, Canada, United States, South, Peru, India, South Korea, Palestine, Japan, South Korea, India, Palestine, India, Canada, India, South Korea, Palestine, United India, Argentina, South Korea, Canada, Palestine, United States, Canada, South Korea, Ecuador, India, South Canada, India, United States, India, Brazil, South Korea, Indonesia, India, New Zealand, United States, India, South Italy, Palestine, Canada, India, Taiwan, Palestine, India, Sweden, South Korea, India, Poland, United States, Palestine, Morocco, India, Canada, Palestine, South Korea, Sweden, United States, India, Ukraine, South Korea, India, South Korea, India, Philippines, South India, South Korea, Germany, India, South Korea, India, South Korea, Spain, Russia, South Korea, Qatar, United Kingdom, Bulgaria, Germany, United Kingdom, South Korea, Germany, South Korea, Russia, United Kingdom, Finland, Germany, South Korea, China, South Korea, Germany, South Korea, Philippines, South Korea, Mexico, South Korea, Germany, Philippines, Canada, Mongolia, Germany, South Korea, Tunisia, Germany, South Korea, Mexico, United States, Mexico, Canada, South Korea, Kenya, South Korea, Canada, Mexico, South Germany, Mexico, Peru. Poland, South Korea, Philippines, Poland, South Korea, Mexico, Germany, Mexico, Germany, Germany, Mexico, South Korea, Canada, Algeria, Mexico, Germany, Mexico, Netherlands, South Mexico, Germany, Germany, Ghana, Poland, Peru, Mexico, Canada, South Korea, Canada, Mexico, Germany, Canada, Germany, Germany, Canada, Turkey, Russia, Canada, Netherlands, Ireland, Canada, Germany, Poland, Canada, Norway, South Korea, Canada, Germany, Netherlands, Canada, Netherlands, Germany, 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 Canada, Netherlands, Russia, Poland, India, Netherlands, Netherlands, United States, South Korea, Uruguay, Canada, Netherlands, Germany, Canada, Germany, Netherlands, Netherlands, Taiwan, Germany, Turkey, Taiwan, United States, Canada, Netherlands, Canada, Taiwan, Netherlands, Germany, Canada, Netherlands, Canada, Taiwan, Poland, Taiwan, Canada, Peru, Canada, Taiwan, Chile, Poland, Canada, Germany, Germany, Saudi, Canada, Germany, Poland, Taiwan, Netherlands, Poland, France, Netherlands, Germany, Netherlands, Canada, Netherlands, Poland, Netherlands, Germany, Serbia, United States, Indonesia, Iran, Netherlands, Canada, Mexico, Germany, Germany, Mexico, Canada, Mexico, Croatia, Germany, Germany, Netherlands, United Kingdom, Netherlands, South Africa, United Kingdom, Mexico, Japan, Netherlands, Indonesia, Mexico, Germany, Mexico, Turkey, Mexico, Netherlands, Mexico, Mexico, United France, Mexico, Germany, Mexico, Peru, Mexico, Netherlands, Germany, Mexico, Netherlands, Mexico, Canada, Mexico, Netherlands, Mexico, Canada, Germany, Mexico, Turkey, Canada, Mexico, Germany, Turkey, Mexico, Mexico, Canada, Mexico, Germany, Germany, Canada, Ecuador, Canada, Mexico, Mexico, Chile, Mexico, Canada, Germany, Germany, Mexico, Mexico, Germany, Mexico, Mexico, Germany, Germany, Indonesia, Germany, Venice, Turkey, Germany, Mexico, Peru, Mexico, Mexico, Indonesia, Canada, Netherlands, Indonesia, Germany, Mexico, Netherlands, Germany, Germany, Sweden, Germany, Netherlands, Germany, Netherlands, Argentina, Germany, Germany, Finland, United States, Netherlands, Mexico, Mexico, Germany, Indonesia, Finland, New Zealand, Indonesia, Netherlands, Germany, Finland, Russia, Germany, Mexico, Indonesia, Mexico, Argentina, Finland, Bangladesh, Finland,
Uruguay,
Finland, Germany, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Germany, Indonesia, Germany, Turkey, Indonesia, Mexico, Finland, Indonesia, Mexico, Indonesia, Russia, Germany, Finland, Mexico, Germany, Mexico, Russia, Peru, Mexico, Germany, Indonesia, Netherlands, Germany, Mexico, Mexico, Nepal, Russia, Mexico, Brazil, Russia, Mexico, Russia, Hungary, Canada, Mexico, Indonesia, Russia, Mexico, Indonesia, Russia, Argentina, Mexico, Russia, India, Mexico, Russia, Canada, Spain, Russia, Indonesia, Russia, Egypt, Canada, Russia, Indonesia, Russia, Switzerland, Indonesia, Russia, Germany, Qatar, Indonesia, Germany, Russia, Indonesia, Russia, United States, Russia, Indonesia, Jamaica, Russia, Indonesia, Russia, Egypt, Norway, Egypt, Canada, Egypt, United Kingdom, Egypt, Russia, Serbia, Russia, Mexico, Egypt, Netherlands, Mexico, Russia, Mexico, Ghana, Russia, Egypt, Mexico, Ghana, Egypt, Egypt, Russia, Egypt, Mexico, Russia, Uzbekistan, Mexico, India, Serbia, Mexico, Egypt, India, Belgium, Russia, Serbia, Mexico, Egypt, United States, Mexico, Russia, Egypt, Turkey, Russia, Uzbekistan, Mexico, Australia, Mexico, Finland, Brazil, Mexico, Egypt, Philippines, Mexico, Nepal, Mexico, Palestine, Egypt, Taiwan, Egypt, Egypt, Mexico, Singapore, Turkey, Mexico, Finland, United States, Egypt, Turkey, United States, Egypt, Turkey, Mexico, Turkey, United States, Egypt, Brazil, Mexico, Turkey, United States, Mexico, Taiwan, Turkey, Mexico, Egypt, Mexico, Norway, Turkey, Mexico, Egypt, Mexico, Greece, Mexico, Philippines, France, Egypt, Indonesia, Mexico, Brazil, Poland, South Korea, Mongolia, Mexico, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Mexico, Indonesia, Brazil, United States, Mexico, Bulgaria, Egypt, Mexico, Egypt, Iceland, Brazil, Mexico, Egypt, United States, Mexico, Brazil, Mexico, Poland, Mexico, Bangladesh, Mexico, Brazil,
France,
Iceland,
South Korea,
Mexico, Mexico,
Brazil,
Switzerland, Mexico, France, Brazil, United States, United States, Morocco, Mexico, Mexico, Brazil, Thailand, France, Brazil, Brazil,
Paraguay,
Brazil, France, Malaysia, Mexico, Indonesia, Brazil, Brazil, France, Brazil, Kenya, Brazil, Mexico, Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Brazil, Sri Lanka, Brazil, France, Indonesia, Brazil, Mexico, Brazil, Brazil, Qatar, Brazil, Mexico, Brazil, Mexico, Tunisia, Mexico, Nepal, Brazil, Mexico, Indonesia, Brazil, Timor-Leste, Brazil, Mexico, United States, Myanmar, Burma, Kenya, Mexico, Brazil, Ireland, Mexico, Indonesia, United States, Mexico, Brazil, United States, Japan, Poland, Brazil, Brazil, Hong Kong, Indonesia, United, Poland, Brazil, Brazil, Malaysia, United States, Brazil, Indonesia, Uzbek, Poland, Mexico, Indonesia, Brazil, Laos, Brazil, United States, Iran, United States, Brazil, United States, Mexico, Brazil, United States, Kenya, United States, France, Brazil, United States, Denmark, Brazil, Indonesia, Denmark, Indonesia, Denmark, Vietnam, Indonesia, Denmark, India, France, United States, Italy, France, Denmark, Brazil, Russia, France, Uzbekistan, Denmark, Indonesia, Sweden, Brazil, Indonesia, Denmark, United Kingdom, Denmark, France, Mexico, Brazil, Denmark, France, Brazil, India, Denmark, Venezuela, Brazil, South Africa, Indonesia, Malaysia, India, Brazil, Vietnam, Denmark, India, Brazil, South Africa, India, Argentina, Brazil, Indonesia, Denmark, Finland, Indonesia, Denmark, Brazil, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, Brazil, Denmark, Brazil, Denmark, Indonesia, Palestine, Denmark, Brazil, South Korea, Brazil, Venezuela, Brazil, Denmark, Norway, Brazil, Denmark, Italy, Brazil, Denmark, Bolivia, Denmark, Bulgaria, Brazil, Mexico, Denmark, Serbia, Brazil, Mexico, Brazil, Mexico, Brazil, Indonesia, Nigeria, Mexico, Brazil, Indonesia, Australia, Mexico, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, South Korea, Indonesia, Mexico, Indonesia, Uruguay, Mexico, Indonesia, Brazil, Iran, Indonesia, Brazil, South Korea, Indonesia, China, Mexico, France, Taiwan, Indonesia, Jamaica, Indonesia, Bulgaria, Taiwan, Brazil, Indonesia, Malaysia, Indonesia, Iran, Mexico, Czechia, Indonesia, Mexico, Indonesia, United States, Indonesia, Taiwan, Ecuador, Mexico, Indonesia, United Kingdom, United States, Indonesia, Denmark, Mexico, Indonesia, Cuba, Mexico, Denmark, Indonesia, Denmark, Indonesia, Denmark, Australia, Denmark, Taiwan, Australia, Taiwan, Mexico, United States, United States, Australia, United States, Denmark, Mexico, Indonesia, Mexico, United Kingdom, United Kingdom, Australia, Denmark, Australia, Denmark, Germany, Indonesia, Denmark, Taiwan, Indonesia, Germany, United States, Indonesia, Germany, Indonesia, United Kingdom, Indonesia, Germany, Canada, China, Germany, United Kingdom, Indonesia, China, Iceland, United Kingdom, Indonesia, China, Peru, Indonesia, Philippines, Taiwan, Germany, Indonesia, Argentina, Germany, Vietnam, Qatar, South Korea, Mexico, Denmark, Indonesia, Peru, Mexico, Japan, Japan, Vietnam, United Kingdom, Mexico, Brazil, Vietnam, Mexico, Japan, South Korea, Germany, United Kingdom, Germany, Indonesia, Mexico, Germany, Germany, United Kingdom, Mexico, United Kingdom, Vietnam, India, Mexico, Japan, Germany, Vietnam, India, Mexico, Indonesia, Vietnam, India, Mexico, Nigeria, United States, Mexico, Germany, Algeria, Mexico, India, Iraq, India, Germany, United Kingdom, India, Mexico, Vietnam, Japan, Germany, India, United Kingdom, Germany, India, Germany, Mexico, Vietnam, Timor-Leste, India, Germany, Japan, Pakistan, Iraq, Japan, Egypt, Japan, United Kingdom, Germany, Iraq, Australia, United Kingdom, Vietnam, Germany, India, Vietnam, Japan, India, United Kingdom, Vietnam, United Kingdom, Iceland, India, Iraq, Germany, Mexico, Germany, Iraq, Vietnam, Italy, Germany, United Kingdom, Turkey, Mexico, United Kingdom, Vietnam, Mexico, Iraq, Sri Lanka, Germany, Vietnam, Germany, Vietnam, Russia, Japan, Vietnam, Vietnam, Hong Kong, Germany, Laos, Germany, Japan, Mongolia, Germany, Vietnam, Japan, Laos, Germany, Germany, Kenya, Iran, Vietnam, Germany, United Kingdom, Vietnam, Japan, Norway, Japan, Vietnam, Germany, Japan, Vietnam, Taiwan, Iran, Japan, Iran, Japan, Germany, Japan, Germany, Turkey, Germany, Japan, France, Iran, Iran, Japan, India, Iran, Germany, United Kingdom, Bolivia, Germany, Japan, Germany, Iran, Iran, Russia, Germany, Japan, Iran, Japan, India, Iran, Turkey, Germany, Germany, Iran, Germany, Russia, Iran, Turkey, Germany, Cuba, Iran, Germany, Japan, Turkey, Iran, Russia, Turkey, Japan, Germany, Iran, Turkey, South Korea, South Japan, Turkey, Russia, Iran, South Korea, Ecuador, Turkey, Russia, South Korea, Slovakia, Iran, Japan, Turkey, South Korea, Iran, Turkey, Japan, South Korea, Iran, Turkey, South Korea, Turkey, South Korea, Mongolia, South Korea, South Korea, South Korea, Iran, Turkey, Japan, South Japan, South Korea, Turkey, South Korea, South Japan, Turkey, South Iran, South Korea, Japan, Turkey, South Iran, Mongolia, South Japan, Peru, Turkey, South Korea, Turkey, Japan, Turkey, Japan, Singapore, Iran, South Korea, Turkey, Japan, South Korea, Turkey, Japan, Iran, South Korea, Turkey, South Korea, Austria, Iran, South Korea, South Japan, Malaysia, Iran, South Turkey, Peru, Turkey, Japan, Turkey, Iran, Japan, Turkey, Ghana, South Korea, Japan, Iran, Japan, South Korea, South Korea, Kuwait, South Korea, Japan, Turkey, South Korea, Spain, South Korea, Turkey, Brazil, South Turkey, South Korea, Brazil, Turkey, South Korea, Turkey, Japan, European Union, South Korea, Japan, Turkey, Tunisia, Brazil, Turkey, Japan, Canada, South Korea, Japan, European Turkey, Brazil, Japan, Turkey, Bolivia, Brazil, Turkey, Japan, Greece, European Japan, Canada, Bolivia, Turkey, Brazil, Turkey, Brazil, Turkey, Russia, Japan, United States, Serbia, Brazil, Israel, Europe, Japan, Turkey, Czechia, Japan, Brazil,
South Korea, Russia, European, Brazil, South Korea, Japan, Turkey, Brazil, South Turkey, Turkey, Brazil, Japan, South Korea, Japan, Serbia, Turkey, Bulgaria, Serbia, Brazil, Serbia, Kuwait, Turkey, Japan, Serbia, Serbia, Japan, Serbia, Turkey, Serbia, 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 Qatar, Japan, South Korea, Turkey, Brazil, Finland, Serbia, Turkey, South Korea, Serbia, Brazil, Japan, Serbia, Turkey, Brazil, Iran, South Korea, Serbia, Japan, Turkey, South Korea, Brazil, Japan, Turkey, South Korea, Turkey, Norway, Serbia, Denmark, South Korea, Turkey, South Korea, India, Japan, Serbia, Brazil, Iceland, Brazil, Turkey, Hungary, South Korea, Brazil, Turkey, Serbia, Japan, Brazil, Japan, Portugal, Serbia, Brazil, Japan, Vietnam, Brazil, Vietnam, Japan, Vietnam, South Korea, Brazil, Vietnam, Japan, Vietnam, Serbia, 2, Canada, Vietnam, Greece, Brazil, South Korea, Vietnam, Jamaica, Brazil, Vietnam, Australia, Japan, 2, Brazil, Canada, Japan, Spain, Canada, Belgium, Japan, Serbia, United Japan, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, Serbia, Turkey, Japan, Vietnam, Brazil, Serbia, Vietnam, Brazil, Colombia, Japan, United States, Serbia, United States, Serbia, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, Brazil, Serbia, Brazil, Serbia, Brazil, Japan, Hungary, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, Greece, Brazil, Serbia, Kenya, Japan, Serbia, Brazil, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, Brazil, Serbia, Brazil, Greece, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, Brazil, Serbia, Japan, Brazil, Brazil, 2, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, 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 Japan, Brazil, Croatia, Brazil, Japan, Poland, Japan, Brazil, 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 Japan, Brazil, Brazil, Philippines, Serbia, Brazil, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, Serbia, Brazil, Germany, Japan, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, Brazil, Serbia, Russia, Brazil, Japan, Serbia, Romania, Turkey, Brazil, Serbia, Laos, Brazil, Indonesia, Japan, Brazil, Serbia, South Korea, Brazil, Brazil, Kenya, Serbia, Brazil, United Serbia, Palestine, Brazil, Serbia, Canada, Brazil, United States, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, Indonesia, Croatia, United States, Brazil, Japan, Singapore, Indonesia. United States. Uruguay. Brazil. Brazil. Ghana. Brazil. Brazil. Hungary. Brazil. Brazil. Canada. Indonesia. 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 Brazil. Pakistan. Indonesia. South Croatia. South Korea. Brazil. Indonesia. Brazil. Indonesia. Indonesia. Brazil. United States. Philippines. Brazil. Chile. Brazil. 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 Indonesia. Brazil. United States. Indonesia. Argentina. Indonesia. United States. Colombia. United States. Indonesia. Not Brazil. Brazil. Chile. Brazil. Brazil. Portugal. Indonesia. Taiwan. Indonesia. Brazil. Poland. Indonesia. Brazil. China. Brazil. Brazil. China. France. Russia. Brazil. Indonesia. Brazil. Uruguay. Japan. Ukraine. Japan. Indonesia. Algeria. Brazil. France. Brazil. Indonesia. Brazil. Philippines. Indonesia. Ireland. Indonesia. Denmark. Palestine. Indonesia. Canada. France. South Korea. Indonesia. United Arab Emirates. Brazil. Philippines. Palestine. Brazil. Brazil. Indonesia. France. Chile. Palestine. Brazil. Indonesia. United Peru. France. Indonesia. Palestine. France. China. Palestine. Indonesia. Palestine. Russia. Indonesia. India. Indonesia. Palestine. India. Indonesia. Indonesia. Kuwait. Philippines. Kenya. Philippines. Japan. France. Indonesia. United States. Indonesia. Uruguay. Indonesia. Philippines. Indonesia. Hong Kong. France. Palestine. France. India. India. United States. India. Indonesia. France. Indonesia. Palestine. Pakistan. Indonesia. Indonesia. Russia. United States. France. Indonesia. Uruguay. France. Germany. Indonesia. Vietnam. United States. Indonesia. France. Romania. France. India. United States. South Africa. Indonesia. Indonesia. France. United States. Philippines. Indonesia. France. Hong Kong. United States. France. France. Argentina. France. Indonesia. 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 United States. Peru. France. France. Indonesia. Egypt. Philippines. France. Pakistan. Indonesia. Indonesia. France. Philippines. Indonesia. Philippines. Tunisia. Indonesia. United States. Malaysia. Indonesia. Philippines, Bolivia, France, Philippines, Bangladesh, France, Indonesia, France, Nepal, Indonesia, France, Indonesia, India, France, Indonesia, France, Cambodia, France, Indonesia, Indonesia, France, Israel, France, Belgium, France, France, Indonesia, France, Philippines, Indonesia, Unite, France, France, Unite, Indonesia, France, Unite, France, Kuwait, United States, France, Serbia, Indonesia, Philippines, France, Japan, Indonesia, France, Taiwan, Indonesia, Indonesia, Qatar, Indonesia, China, France, Mongolia, Indonesia, France, Venezuela, Poland, France, Indonesia, Peru, Laos, Japan, Australia, Israel, Japan, Nepal, France, Bolivia, Uruguay, Australia, Jamaica, China, Philippines, France, Switzerland, Turkey, Slovakia, United States, Taiwan, Indonesia, Turkey, Japan, Romania, Jamaica, Philippines, Bulgaria, Philippines, Uzbekistan, Philippines, Turkey, Philippines, Portugal, United States, Japan, United States, India, Philippines, Finland, Philippines, Indonesia, Japan, Uruguay, Turkey, Vietnam, Pakistan, Philippines, France, Philippines, India, Philippines, Turkey, Philippines, India, Egypt, India, Turkey, United States, Switzerland, Brazil, Sweden, Russia, Turkey, Portugal, Turkey, Brazil, United States, Singapore, Japan, Brazil, Egypt, Turkey, Philippines, Turkey, Germany, Egypt, Philippines, Turkey, Japan, Peru, Philippines, Turkey, Egypt, Israel, Egypt, Turkey, Philippines, China, Turkey, Egypt, Japan, Iceland, Egypt, Brazil, Egypt, Sri Lanka, Egypt, Hungary, Japan, Portugal, Venezuela, Egypt, Italy, Egypt, Japan, Ireland, Egypt, South Korea, United Philippines, Egypt, New Egypt, Portugal, Egypt, Japan, Egypt, Portugal, South Korea, Portugal, South Egypt, South Korea, Laos, Philippines, South Portugal, Japan, Austria, South Korea, Portugal, Philippines, Austria, South Korea, Philippines, Egypt, Iraq, Philippines, South Italy, Japan, Bulgaria, Portugal, Philippines, South Korea, Philippines, South Korea, Japan, Malaysia, South Korea, Philippines, Portugal, Mexico, South Italy, Portugal, Sri Lanka, South Korea, Egypt, Portugal, Laos, Philippines, Egypt, Mexico, Slovakia, Japan, Philippines, South Korea, Vietnam, Brazil, Italy, Philippines, Ukraine, South Philippines, Japan, South Korea, Thailand, Egypt, Portugal, South Korea, Egypt, Brazil, Egypt, Portugal, Brazil, South Korea, Bolivia, Japan, Egypt, South Korea, Philippines, South Korea, Brazil, Jamaica, Portugal, South Korea, Brazil, Iran, Mexico, Brazil, Philippines, Japan, Philippines, South Korea, Philippines, South Korea, Brazil, Portugal, France, South Korea, Portugal, South Algeria, Portugal, Japan, Brazil, Chile, Brazil, South Korea, Portugal, Brazil, Bolivia, South Korea, Taiwan, South Korea, Brazil, South Korea, Chile, Brazil, Japan, South Korea, Brazil, Portugal, South Korea, Brazil, Portugal, Myanmar, Japan, United Arab Emirates, Brazil, Germany, Japan, Brazil, United States, Portugal, Indonesia, Japan, United Arab, Brazil, Portugal, Brazil, Norway, Japan, Indonesia, Brazil, Austria, Japan, Vietnam, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, Indonesia, Portugal, Japan, Brazil, Argentina, Indonesia, Japan, Bulgaria, Brazil, Japan, Indonesia, Japan, Hungary, Indonesia, Japan, Portugal, Brazil, Indonesia, Japan, Portugal, Italy, Brazil, Myanmar, Burma, Portugal, Brazil, Myanmar, Indonesia, Brazil, South Africa, Indonesia, Brazil, Portugal, Japan, Sri Lanka, Portugal, Japan, Portugal, United States, Japan, United States, Japan, Portugal, Brazil, Japan, Indonesia, Sweden, Portugal, Indonesia, Japan, Venezuela, Portugal, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, Portugal, Indonesia, Laos, Portugal, Japan, Indonesia, Brazil, United Kingdom, Portugal, Brazil, Indonesia, Brazil, Greece, Indonesia, Japan, Brazil, Egypt, Japan, Brazil, Indonesia, Austria, Japan, Brazil, in Egypt, Japan, Brazil, Indonesia, Japan, Portugal, in United States, Japan, Indonesia, Portugal, Colombia, Indonesia, Indonesia, Iceland, Indonesia, Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Japan, China, in Japan, in Portugal, Poland, Japan, Brazil, Singapore, Croatia, Portugal, Netherlands, Qatar, Japan, Brazil, Czechia, Brazil, Kazakhstan, Brazil, Belgium, Indonesia, Brazil, Belgium, Brazil, Indonesia, Iran, Brazil, Austria, Indonesia, Brazil, Australia, Uruguay, Brazil, Indonesia, Indonesia, Brazil, Malaysia, Australia, Brazil, Ghana, Brazil, Australia, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, Austria, in Brazil, Argentina, in Brazil, Italy, Brazil, Indonesia, Indonesia, Brazil, Brazil, Kazakhstan, Spain, Brazil, Poland, Brazil, Jamaica, Italy, Indonesia, Brazil, Uruguay, Indonesia, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, Indonesia, United States, Portugal, Indonesia, Indonesia, United States, Philippines, United States, Philippines, Finland, Germany, Indonesia, Czechia, United States, Indonesia, Indonesia, Cuba, Indonesia, Indonesia, Philippines, Algeria, Indonesia, Philippines, Indonesia, Russia, Philippines, South Korea, Indonesia, Singapore, Indonesia, United States, Austria, Philippines, Indonesia, South Africa, Indonesia, Philippines, Indonesia, Philippines, Spain, Indonesia, Philippines, Indonesia, Romania, South Indonesia, Myanmar, Burma, Indonesia, United States, Indonesia, Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, Indonesia, Peru, Indonesia, Philippines, Croatia, Indonesia, United States, Indonesia, Canada, Indonesia, Italy, South Korea, Indonesia, Denmark, Indonesia, Philippines, Indonesia, Venezuela, Japan, United States, Indonesia, Romania, Indonesia, Indonesia, Philippines, Indonesia, United States, Indonesia, Iran, Indonesia, Bolivia, Iran, Indonesia, Indonesia, Malaysia, United States, South Korea, Indonesia, Italy, Indonesia, United States, United Arab Indonesia, in Australia, in Mexico, Mexico, in Mexico, Mexico, United States, Mexico, South in Brazil, Mexico, South Korea, Brazil, Belgium, Indonesia, United States, South Korea, Mexico, United States, Kuwait, South Korea, in Indonesia, Mexico, United States, Indonesia, China, Mexico, Indonesia, Brazil, South Uruguay, Mexico, South Korea, Qatar, United States, in South Korea, Brazil, Austria, Brazil, South Korea, Serbia, United States, Bolivia, South Korea, Indonesia, Venezuela, South Korea, Indonesia, South Korea, Brazil, South Africa, United States, South Korea, Jamaica, South Korea, Philippines, Switzerland, Indonesia, South Korea, Australia, Indonesia, South Korea, Spain, South Thailand, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, South Korea, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, Ecuador, Philippines, Japan, Pakistan, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, Brazil, South Korea, Indonesia, South Korea, Philippines, Iceland, South Korea, Indonesia, Serbia, Brazil, South Korea, United States, Ukraine, South Japan, United States, Japan, Cambodia, Indonesia, Austria, Japan, United States, Taiwan, Brazil, South Korea, Japan, South Korea, Russia, Japan, South Korea, Russia, Japan, Colombia, Indonesia, Russia, Japan, Algeria, South Korea, Russia, Ghana, South India, South Korea, India, Russia, Greece, Malaysia, India, Russia, India, Malaysia, Russia, India, Russia, South Kuwait, Indonesia, Russia, India, South Africa, Russia, Malaysia, South Korea, Indonesia, Thailand, India, Russia, Indonesia, India, South Korea, India, Malaysia, India, Russia, India, Kuwait, India, South Korea, India, Malaysia, South Korea, Indonesia, India, Russia, India, South Russia, India, Vietnam, India, Spain, South India, Germany, Russia, India, France, Russia, India, South India, Singapore, India, South Korea, Russia, Finland, South Korea, Netherlands, India, Netherlands, India, Netherlands, India, India, Netherlands, India, Russia, Netherlands, India, Serbia, India, Russia, South Korea, India, Peru, South Korea, India, India, Ecuador, Netherlands, Russia, India, Netherlands, South Korea, Netherlands, South Korea, India, Russia, India, India, Mexico, Mexico, Netherlands, India, India, Germany, India, Russia, India, Bolivia, India, South Netherlands, Russia, India, South Netherlands, India, Ghana, Russia, India, India, Netherlands, India, Russia, Russia, South Korea, India, South Russia, India, South Korea, Russia, South Korea, India, South Korea, Russia, Russia, India, India, Russia, Thailand, India, India, Iceland, India, Russia, India, India, Russia, India, Norway, Netherlands, Russia, India, Russia, Russia, India, India, Netherlands, India, India, Russia, India, Brazil, India, Russia, India, Russia, Netherlands, India, Russia, India, Russia, Algeria, India, Russia, Russia, India, Russia, India, Russia, Canada, Netherlands, India, Russia, India, Netherlands, Russia, New Zealand, Iran, Russia, India, India, Iceland, India, Russia, United States, Laos, India, Netherlands, United States, Russia, Netherlands, India, Netherlands, Russia, India, Kazakhstan, Netherlands, Russia, India, Netherlands, India, Russia, India, Venezuela, India, Netherlands, Kazakhstan, India, Netherlands, India, Russia, India, Russia, India, Netherlands, India, Russia, Thailand, Canada, India, Indonesia, India, India, South Africa, India, Algeria, India, New Zealand, Canada, India, 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 Canada, India, Denmark, Germany, Canada, India, Germany, India, Finland, India, India, Belgium, India, Germany, India, Germany, India, Canada, Germany, India, Kenya, Canada, Philippines, Germany, India, Canada, Philippines, Germany, Israel, Canada, Germany, India, Bulgaria, India, Germany, Canada, Israel, Germany, Philippines, Canada, Canada, Venezuela, Philippines, Germany, Canada, Serbia, India, Germany, Philippines, Canada, Germany, Canada, Canada, Philippines, Finland, Canada, Germany, Canada, India, Canada, Canada, India, India, Germany, Canada, Philippines, Germany, Canada, Philippines, Canada, Canada, Germany, United States, Japan, Canada, Canada, Bulgaria, Philippines, Canada, Germany, Croatia, Germany, Philippines, Canada, Japan, United Kingdom, Canada, Germany, Nepal, Canada, Japan, Canada, Japan, Philippines, Germany, Kuwait, Canada, Germany, Norway, Canada, Germany, Belgium, Germany, Canada, Algeria, Germany, Portugal, Canada, Germany, Switzerland, Nigeria, Germany, United States, Germany, France, Ghana, Germany, France, Morocco, United States, Germany, Algeria, United States, South Korea, Nepal, Canada, South Korea, Canada, South Korea, Russia, Venice, Canada, Russia, South Korea, Canada, South Korea, Venezuela, South Korea, Russia, South Korea, Belgium, Russia, Philippines, Russia, South Bangladesh, Canada, United Venezuela, Russia, Ireland, Venezuela, United States, South Philippines, Cuba, Russia, Venezuela, Venezuela, Mexico, Philippines, United States, Philippines, Venezuela, Pakistan, Venezuela, Italy, Venezuela, Philippines, Thailand, Venezuela, Singapore, Venezuela, United States, Kenya, Philippines, South Korea, Hungary, South Korea, South Korea, Nigeria, Venezuela, South Korea, South Korea, Venezuela, Colombia, Philippines, Venezuela, Finland, Venezuela, Peru, South Korea, Germany, Venezuela, Thailand, Venezuela, Germany, South Korea, Venezuela, Denmark, Venezuela, Brazil, South Korea, Venezuela, Switzerland, South Korea, South Korea, Canada, Venezuela, Canada, Venezuela, Uzbekistan, Venezuela, Germany, South Korea, Venezuela, Turkey, Venezuela, South Korea, Mexico, Czechia, Venezuela, Turkey, Venezuela, South Korea, Germany, Mexico, Germany, South Korea, Indonesia, Germany, South Korea, Venezuela, Germany, South Korea, Israel, South Korea, Germany, South Korea, Germany, Cuba, Germany, South Germany, Iran, Germany, South Korea, Germany, Iran, Germany, South Iran, Czechia, South Korea, Iran, Japan, Pakistan, Iran, South Korea, Myanmar, Burma, Iran, South Korea, South Korea, Iran, South Korea, South Korea, South Korea, South Korea, Norway, Pakistan, Iran, Paraguay, South Korea, Canada, Iran, Venezuela, Iran, Japan, South Korea, Poland, Iran, Pakistan, South Korea, Iran, South Korea, South Korea, Greece, Iran, Canada, South Korea, Pakistan, South Korea, Serbia, Iran, Pakistan, Brazil, Kazakhstan, Iran, Canada, Pakistan, Ireland, Iran, Brazil, Canada, South Africa, Brazil, Iran, Brazil, Laos, United States, Pakistan, Brazil, Iran, Ireland, Brazil, Iran, Brazil, Pakistan, Brazil, Iran, Pakistan, Brazil, United States, Iran, Brazil, United States, Iran, United States, Brazil, China, Iran, United States, Brazil, Pakistan, Iran, United States, Brazil, Japan, Iran, Japan, Iran, Brazil, United States, Brazil, United States, Iran, Japan, Iran, Japan, United States, Japan, Brazil, Iran, Brazil, Mongolia, United States, New Zealand, Japan, Brazil, Iran, Japan, Brazil, Japan, Pakistan, Iran, Israel, Brazil, United States, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Iran, Greece, Pakistan, Japan, Pakistan, Brazil, Mongolia, Japan, Pakistan, Egypt, United States, Iran, Japan, Brazil, United States, Mexico, Pakistan, Japan, Algeria, Brazil, United States, Iran, United States, Italy, Japan, Japan, Brazil, Mexico, Brazil, Japan, Finland, Iran, Japan, Brazil, United States, Pakistan, Japan, United States, Brazil, Ghana, Finland, Brazil, Pakistan, Brazil, Argentina, Brazil, Portugal, Japan, Brazil, Pakistan, Brazil, Bulgaria, Brazil, Japan, Venezuela, Brazil, Japan, Pakistan, Croatia, Brazil, Japan, Indonesia, Brazil, Japan, Indonesia, Thailand, Japan, Brazil, Indonesia, India, Brazil, Indonesia, Japan, Spain, Japan, Canada, Japan, India, Switzerland, Japan, Jamaica, Indonesia, Brazil, Japan, Canada, Brazil, Japan, Russia, Brazil, Iran, Vietnam, South Korea, Brazil,
Israel,
Brazil,
Japan,
Iran,
Brazil, India,
in Japan,
South Korea,
Brazil,
Venezuela, Japan,
Brazil,
South Korea, Cambodia, South in Pakistan,
Brazil,
Japan, Indonesia,
Brazil,
France, Japan, Italy, Japan, South Korea,
Brazil,
Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, South Korea, Vietnam, Japan, Pakistan, Japan, Indonesia,
Brazil,
Malaysia,
Brazil,
Indonesia, France, United States,
Brazil,
South Korea, Japan, Nigeria, Pakistan, France, Philippines, Japan, India, France, Japan, France,
Brazil,
South Korea, Japan, France, Hong Kong, Japan, France,
Japan,
Pakistan, South Korea, France,
Iran,
Japan, France, Japan, Philippines, South Korea,
Brazil,
Nepal,
Brazil,
South Korea, Canada, Japan,
Brazil,
Japan, Uzbekistan,
Brazil,
Japan, Finland, South Korea, Japan, France,
Brazil, Brazil,
Japan,
Brazil,
Japan, South Korea,
Brazil,
South Korea, Malaysia, South Korea,
Brazil,
France, Ukraine, United States, South Korea, Singapore, South Korea, Japan,
Brazil,
Slovakia, Japan,
Brazil,
Malaysia, South Japan, Malaysia, South Korea, Japan, South Korea, Japan, France, Japan, United States, Indonesia, Japan,
Brazil,
Japan, United States, Japan,
Iran,
Brazil, Japan,
Iraq,
Iran, Japan, South Korea, Japan, Indonesia,
Brazil,
Japan, South Korea,
Brazil,
Indonesia, Colombia,
Brazil,
Japan, Indonesia, Nigeria, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Indonesia,
Brazil,
Japan, South Korea,
Brazil,
Japan, France,
Brazil,
Japan, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, United States, Japan, Singapore, Nepal,
Brazil,
Japan, South Korea,
Brazil,
South Korea, United States, South Korea, Indonesia, Singapore, Japan,
Brazil,
Japan, Jamaica,
Brazil,
Japan, Indonesia, Kazakhstan,
Brazil,
Japan, Norway,
Brazil,
Japan, Singapore,
Brazil,
South Korea, United States, Japan, South Korea,
Brazil,
Saudi, Japan, Russia, South Korea, Japan, South Korea,
Brazil,
South Japan, Bolivia,
Brazil,
South Korea, Japan, South Korea, Indonesia, South Korea, Sweden, Indonesia,
Brazil,
United States, Algeria,
Japan,
Indonesia, South Korea, Brazil, South Korea, United States, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Brazil, Jamaica,
Brazil,
South Korea, Taiwan, South Korea, Indonesia, South Korea, Brazil, South Korea, South Finland, Indonesia, Indonesia, Canada, Brazil, Israel, Brazil, Iran, Indonesia, South Korea, Laos, Indonesia, South Korea, Indonesia, Switzerland, South Korea, Brazil, China, South Korea, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, Indonesia, Colombia, South Korea, Israel, South Korea, Paraguay, Philippines, South Korea,
Iran,
Chile, South Korea,
Brazil,
Palestine, South Korea, Uruguay, Palestine, Spain, South Korea, Kenya, Indonesia, Jamaica, Germany, Indonesia, Chile, Germany, Switzerland, Indonesia, South Korea, Canada, Indonesia, South Korea, Germany, Indonesia, South Germany, Indonesia, South Korea, Germany, Indonesia, South Korea, Germany, Laos, Canada, Indonesia, Germany, Indonesia, Portugal, Brazil, Indonesia, South Brazil, South Korea, Brazil, Indonesia, Germany, France, Indonesia, Brazil, Germany, Indonesia, Russia, South Korea, Indonesia, Germany, Denmark, Germany, Indonesia, Brazil, Germany, Finland, South Korea, Brazil, South Korea, Indonesia, Germany, Italy, South Korea, Germany, South France, Germany, Indonesia, Mexico, Germany, Brazil, Germany, United Kingdom, Brazil, Germany, Indonesia, Croatia, Germany, Indonesia, Poland, Indonesia, Brazil, Vietnam, Germany, Brazil, Germany, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, Malaysia, Indonesia, Brazil, Germany, Australia, Croatia, Brazil, Indonesia, Ecuador, Brazil, Indonesia, Australia, Kazakhstan, Indonesia, Germany, Serbia, Germany, Brazil, Myanmar, Burma, Brazil, Indonesia, Poland, Germany, Indonesia, Brazil, Germany, United Kingdom, Germany, India, Slovakia, Brazil, Belgium, Brazil, Germany, Indonesia, Netherlands, Brazil, In Germany, Germany. Italy, Indonesia, Indonesia. Brazil, Sri Lanka, India. In Czechia, Brazil, Indonesia, Indonesia, Canada. In New Zealand, Finland, Indonesia, South Korea, Indonesia, South Korea, Indonesia, Turkey, Brazil, Indonesia, Czechia, Brazil, South New Zealand, Indonesia, Indonesia, New Zealand, South Korea, Brazil, Indonesia, in Mexico, South Korea, New Zealand, Brazil, Indonesia, New Zealand, South Indonesia, Italy, Indonesia, Indonesia, South Korea, Taiwan, Brazil, South Korea, Spain, Brazil, Greece, Brazil, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Brazil, South Korea, Indonesia, Brazil, Greece, Indonesia, Egypt, Greece, Indonesia, Brazil, South Korea, Indonesia, Brazil, South Korea, Peru, South Korea, New Zealand, Indonesia, Greece, Germany, Indonesia, South Greece, Timor-Leste, South Korea, Greece, New Zealand, South Korea, Brazil, Greece, South Indonesia, Cambodia, Greece, Indonesia, New Zealand, Serbia, South Korea, Greece, Brazil, in Bangladesh, Brazil, in Australia, Greece, Palestine, Indonesia, Brazil, in Indonesia, South Korea, Brazil, Indonesia, in South Peru, Greece, in South Korea, Brazil, Greece, Brazil, Indonesia, Greece, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Greece, Morocco, Indonesia, Greece, New Zealand, Brazil, Greece, Indonesia, Brazil, Greece, Romania, Brazil, Greece, Indonesia, Greece, Romania, Indonesia, Brazil, Slovakia, Brazil, Greece, Uzbek, Indonesia, United Kingdom, Indonesia, Kuwait, Greece, New Zealand, Indonesia, Singapore, Indonesia, Greece, Indonesia, Greece, Indonesia, Indonesia, Greece, Indonesia, Greece, New Zealand, Mexico, Timor-Leste, Indonesia, Morocco, New Zealand, Greece, Iraq, Indonesia, Greece, Cambodia, Greece, Indonesia, Greece, Palestine, Brazil, Greece, Kazakhstan, Brazil, Greece, Romania, New Zealand, Greece, Brazil, Canada, Greece, Brazil, Greece, Uzbekistan, Greece, Brazil, Qatar, New Zealand, Vietnam, Greece, Indonesia, Iran, Greece, Italy, Indonesia, Greece, Ukraine, Indonesia, Brazil, Mongolia, Indonesia, Greece, Indonesia, New Zealand, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, New Zealand, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, Greece, New Zealand, Norway, Indonesia, Italy, Indonesia, New Zealand, Singapore, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, New Zealand, Indonesia, New Zealand, Ecuador, Brazil, New Zealand, Austria, New Zealand, Brazil, Russia, New Zealand, Indonesia, South Korea, New Zealand, Egypt, South Korea, New Zealand, South Korea, Timor-Leste, South Korea, China, Brazil, South Korea, Uruguay, New Zealand, South Korea, Colombia, Brazil, Italy, South Venezuela, Brazil, South Korea, United States, New Zealand, South Korea, Indonesia, South Korea, Kuwait, South Korea, India, New Zealand, South Brazil, Kuwait, New Zealand, Indonesia, Italy, Iraq, New Zealand, India, Brazil, Israel, India, Brazil, South Korea, Argentina, South Korea, Bolivia, New Zealand, South Korea, Indonesia, New Zealand, Brazil, New Zealand, Spain, Indonesia, New Zealand, Brazil, Singapore, South Korea, Brazil, New Zealand, South Serbia, Indonesia, Finland, Czechia, South Korea, Brazil, Indonesia, Czechia, Brazil, Indonesia, South Korea, South Africa, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, Czechia, Peru, Brazil, Japan, Greece, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Japan, Indonesia, Algeria, Japan, Indonesia, Brazil, France, Uzbekistan, Japan, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Indonesia, Brazil, Nigeria, Indonesia, India, Myanmar, Burma, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, Mexico, Brazil, Japan, Greece, Indonesia, Brazil, Spain, Brazil, Indonesia, Tunisia, Indonesia, Japan, Brazil, Croatia, Indonesia, Brazil, Paraguay, Indonesia, France, Indonesia, Brazil, United States, Brazil, South Korea, Indonesia, South Korea, Brazil, India, Iran, Greece, India, Iran, Japan, Indonesia, Iran, India, Qatar, Indonesia, India, South Brazil, Tunisia, India, Brazil, Indonesia, Japan, Ghana, Iran, Indonesia, Japan, Vietnam, India, Indonesia, Japan, Indonesia, Brazil, Brazil, New Zealand, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Indonesia, Myanmar, Burma, Indonesia, Nigeria, South Indonesia, India, Pakistan, Japan, Indonesia, South Korea, Ireland, India, South Korea, India, Morocco, Brazil, Japan, Indonesia, India, Brazil, Indonesia, Tunisia, Indonesia, Japan, India, Bolivia, Indonesia, India, Japan, South Korea, Croatia, India, Indonesia, Cambodia, Japan, Indonesia, Brazil, Cambodia, India, Indonesia, Brazil, Kenya, Indonesia, India, Japan, Brazil, Japan, 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 Indonesia, Japan, Switzerland, South Korea, Brazil, Japan, South Korea, Japan, Brazil, Japan, Japan, South Korea, Japan, Brazil, Japan, Japan, Brazil, South Japan, Indonesia, Japan, Japan, Israel, Japan, Brazil, Japan, Indonesia, Cuba, India, Japan, Indonesia, India, Japan, South Korea, Brazil, Indonesia, Japan, Brazil, Indonesia, India, Japan, United States, Indonesia, Indonesia, Palestine, Indonesia, India, Brazil, Japan, Indonesia, Japan, Brazil, Kenya, India, Japan, Indonesia, Japan, Brazil, Japan, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Indonesia, Peru, Japan, India, Nepal, Indonesia, Japan, Nepal, Indonesia, South Japan, South Korea, Indonesia, Japan, Indonesia, Japan, Indonesia, India, Indonesia, South Korea, Indonesia, South Korea, India, Japan, Nepal, United States, Japan, Sweden, Nepal, Japan, South Korea, Japan, South Japan, Canada, South Korea, Japan, Kenya, United States, Indonesia, Japan, Nepal, Japan, Japan, Nepal, South Korea, Japan, Hungary, United States, South Korea, Nepal, Japan, South Korea, Canada, Japan, South Korea, Japan, Brazil, Nepal, United States, Thailand, Japan, Laos, South Korea, United States, Japan, Canada, United States, Japan, New Zealand, South Korea, Nepal, Thailand, Japan, South Korea, Japan, Nepal, Thailand, Japan, Thailand, South Korea, Thailand, Nepal, Tunisia, Japan, South Korea, United States, Belgium, Thailand, South Japan, Thailand, Nepal, South Korea, Japan, Thailand, Austria, Japan, South Korea, South Japan, Venezuela, Japan, Thailand, South Korea, Japan, United States, Iran, Japan, Thailand, Japan, Nepal, Thailand, Japan, Colombia, France, United States, Japan, Hong Kong, Japan, Thailand, Japan, Nepal, South Korea, Paraguay, United States, Turkey, Japan, Japan. United States, Denmark, Peru, Thailand, United States, Japan, Peru, Mongolia, South Korea, Turkey, Japan, South Korea, Nepal, Thailand, Japan, Mexico, Thailand, Nepal, South Korea, Iran, Mongolia, Japan, South Korea, Nepal, Iceland, South Japan, South Korea, Tunisia, Thailand, Mexico, Nepal, Mexico, South Korea, Mexico, Singapore, Nepal, Mexico, South Korea, Colombia, Thailand, United Arab Emirates, Japan, China, Qatar, Malaysia, Thailand, Japan, Thailand, Japan, Mexico, China, Kenya, Japan, Thailand, Mexico, China, Mexico, Nepal, Malaysia, Mexico, Austria, Mexico, Nepal, Croatia, Japan, Mexico, Japan, Mexico, Japan, Malaysia, South Korea, Japan, Nigeria, South Iran, Nepal, Japan, South Korea, South Korea, Japan, Nepal, Mexico, South Korea, Croatia, Philippines, Nepal, Japan, Venezuela, Japan, Japan, Russia, Japan, Mexico, Japan, Nepal, Ukraine, South Korea, India, Nepal, Belgium, United States, Mexico, Japan, South Korea, Japan, South Korea, Iran, Nigeria, Taiwan, Canada, Nepal, South Korea, Chile, United States, Nepal, South Korea, Poland, Japan, Iran, Japan, Israel, United States, South Korea, United States, Germany, South Korea, United States, Nepal, Belgium, United States, Japan, South Korea, Nigeria, Japan, Serbia, Nepal, South Korea, Qatar, Japan, Nepal, Japan, United States, Japan, Iceland, Nepal, South Korea, United States, South Poland, Nepal, Japan, India, Russia, South India, Nepal, South Korea, Nepal, Morocco, India, Nepal, South Korea, India, United States, Nepal, Nigeria, Czechia, Croatia, Canada, India, South Korea, Nepal, India, Japan, India, Nepal, India, Japan, India, South Korea, Nepal, South Korea, New Zealand, India, Indonesia, India, India, South United States, South Korea, India, Morocco, Nepal, Croatia, India, Nepal, South India, Myanmar, Nepal, India, Nepal, Indonesia, Paraguay, India, Nepal, Nepal, Palestine, Nepal, Belgium, Nepal, Indonesia, India, Nepal, India, Indonesia, India, Nigeria, South Korea, India, Laos, Nepal, Anguilla, Germany, Nepal, Indonesia, Bolivia, South Korea, Nepal, India, South Korea, Nigeria, India, New Zealand, South Korea, Nepal, India, Philippines, South Korea, Nigeria, South Korea, India, Nigeria, South Korea, India, Peru, Nepal, Indonesia, Nepal, India, United States, Nepal, Nigeria, Hungary, India, United States, Nepal, India, Nepal, United States, Nepal, Canada, United States, Turkey, Nepal, Iran, South Korea, United States, Nepal, South Korea, Croatia, South Korea, Nepal, Nigeria, South Korea, India, Nepal, United Kingdom, Nepal, India, Nigeria, Nepal, South Korea, Cuba, Croatia, Nepal, Nigeria, India, Nigeria, South Korea, India, Hungary, Nigeria, United Kingdom, Nigeria, Nepal, Singapore, Nepal, Nigeria, Iceland, South Korea, Nepal, China, United Kingdom, Nepal, South Korea, Chile, South Korea, Nepal, South Korea, Croatia, Singapore, Nigeria, Nigeria, South Korea, Jamaica, Nigeria, South Korea, Singapore, South Korea, Iran, South Korea, Peru, South Korea, Singapore, South Nigeria, Iran, Argentina, Nigeria, South Korea, Egypt, South Korea, Croatia, South Korea, Norway, South Korea, Hong Kong, Mexico, Argentina, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, South Korea, Nigeria, Hong Kong, South Korea, China, Malaysia, Iran, China, Mexico, Peru, Singapore, South Brunei, Nigeria, South Korea, South Korea, Nigeria, Mexico, Peru, Canada, Germany, Malaysia, South Korea, Malaysia, Nigeria, Canada, Malaysia, India, Nigeria, South Korea, Canada, Singapore, Canada, Nigeria, Iran, Canada, Brunei, Singapore, Nigeria, Canada, Nigeria, Kazakhstan, Nigeria, India, Taiwan, Canada, India, Nigeria, Algeria, Canada, India, Malaysia, South Korea, Singapore, Indonesia, South Korea, Croatia, Singapore, India, Japan, Germany, India, Austria, Singapore, India, Norway, India, Canada, Curacao, China, Canada, Singapore, South Japan, Ireland, Canada, Canada, Japan, Uzbekistan, Nigeria, Japan, Nigeria, Germany, South, Canada, Nigeria, Canada, Germany, KT, Canada, Canada, Japan, Canada, Malaysia, Canada, South Korea, Canada, India, Canada, South India, South Germany, India, Singapore, India, Canada, South Canada, Canada, South Korea, Croatia, Japan, South United States, South Korea, Germany, Canada, Japan, Canada, Germany, South to Canada, Canada, South Korea, Germany, Nigeria, Japan, South Korea, Canada, Japan, Germany, Canada, Japan, Germany, Canada, Japan, South Japan, Spain, Nigeria, Germany, South Korea, Germany, South Japan, Singapore, South Croatia, Japan, South Korea, Serbia, Japan, Nigeria, Japan, Israel, Nigeria, South Korea, Singapore, Timor-Leste, South Korea, Greece, Japan, South Korea, Mexico, Croatia, Nigeria, Croatia, South Ireland, South Ukraine, South Canada, Japan, Myanmar, South Korea, Peru, Singapore, South Korea, Indonesia, Italy, South Korea, Bolivia, South Korea, Philippines, Singapore, South Korea, Indonesia, Iraq, Indonesia, South Korea, Mexico, South Korea, South Belgium, South Korea, Bolivia, Uzbekistan, South Korea, Belgium, Indonesia, South Korea, Indonesia, South Korea, Singapore, Timor-Leste, South Korea, Jamaica, Indonesia, Japan, United States, South Korea, United States, Palestine, South Korea, South Korea, Japan, South Korea, Japan, United States, South Korea, Italy, South Korea, United States, South Korea, Japan, South Korea, Austria, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, South Korea, Croatia, Japan, United States, South Korea, United States, South Korea, China, South Korea, Japan, South Korea, Qatar, United States, South Korea, Japan, Chile, South Korea, Brazil, Japan, South Korea, Ecuador, Singapore, South Korea, Bangladesh, South Korea, New Zealand, South Korea, Croatia, Russia, Russia, South Korea, Russia, Poland, Russia, Peru, Egypt, South Korea, Canada, Japan, Russia, Tunisia, Canada, Russia, Philippines, Iran, Russia, South Korea, Canada, Serbia, Egypt, South Korea, Czechia, South Egypt, South Korea, Russia, South Korea, Canada, Egypt, South Korea, Algeria, Russia, South Korea, Canada, Russia, Egypt, Russia, Turkey, Thailand, Canada, Palestine, Egypt, Malaysia, Philippines, South Korea, Russia, South Korea, Russia, Canada, Algeria, Israel, South Russia, Singapore, Russia, Mexico, Singapore, Canada, South Korea, Palestine, Mexico, Japan, Russia, Ecuador, Japan, South Korea, Bolivia, Russia, South Korea, Japan, South Russia, China, South Korea, Russia, South Bangladesh, South Korea, Russia, South Korea, Sweden, Japan, Russia, Nigeria, South Russia, Japan, South Sweden, South Korea, Russia, Sweden, Malaysia, Japan, South Korea, Russia, South Korea, Sweden, South Korea, South Russia, South Korea, Portugal, Sweden, Russia, South Korea, Brazil, South Korea, Russia, Japan, France, South Korea, Russia, South Korea, France, Russia, Bulgaria, Croatia, South Korea, Germany, Japan, Russia, South Korea, Qatar, Russia, South Korea, Denmark, India, South Korea, Japan, Kuwait, South Korea, Japan, Colombia, United Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, South Korea, Mexico, Iran, United States, India, Peru, Japan, Mexico, South Korea, Hong Kong, Mexico, South Korea, South Algeria, United States, South Korea, Mexico, South Korea, United Philippines, South Korea, Mexico, Japan, United States, South Korea, Mexico, United States, Mexico, South Korea, Netherlands, United Kingdom, Belgium, Mexico, Philippines, Mexico, Japan, Mexico, Mexico, India, Mexico, Russia, Malaysia, Philippines, South Korea, Mexico, Myanmar, South Korea, Mexico, South Korea, South Africa, India, South Korea, Nigeria, India, South Korea, India, India, Malaysia, India, Australia, India, South India, Mexico, Italy, Croatia, Mexico, Italy, Belgium, India, Mexico, Italy, Mexico, Mexico, South Korea, Italy, Portugal, Malaysia, India, Mexico, Italy, Mexico, India, Mexico, Croatia, Mexico, India, Italy, South Korea, Mexico, South, Mexico, Italy, Mexico, Italy, Mexico, China, Mexico, Mexico, India, Israel, Italy, Mexico, Italy, Mexico, South Korea, South Korea, Mexico, India, Mexico, 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 Russia, Mexico, Russia, Italy, Mexico, Russia, Mexico, Italy, Mexico, Italy, Russia, Mexico, South Korea, Italy, Finland, Mexico, Russia, Japan, South Korea, Mexico, Japan, Mexico, Italy, Mexico, Mexico, Italy, Mexico, Philippines, Italy, Nepal, Mexico, Italy, Egypt, Philippines, Russia, Mexico, Philippines, Nepal, Mexico, South Korea, Palestine, Mexico, South Philippines, Nepal, South Korea, Mexico, South Germany, Russia, South Korea, Nepal, Mexico, Norway, Italy, Mexico, South Korea, Mexico, Italy, Ireland, South Italy, Mexico, South Italy, Nepal, Italy, United States, Italy, Nepal, South Korea, Mexico, Italy, South Korea, Mexico, China, United States, Italy, United States, Mexico, South Italy, Mexico, South Korea, Italy, Austria, Mexico, Italy, United States, Italy, South Korea, South Korea, China, Mexico, Mexico, South Korea, Mexico, United States, Iran, Italy, South Korea, Italy, South Korea, Italy, United States, Italy, United States, Italy, United Italy, India, Iran, South Korea, Italy, United States, Italy, United States, United States, United States, United States, China, United States, South Korea, South Italy, United Japan, Egypt, United States, Philippines, South Korea, United States, Japan, Philippines, Italy, United States, Italy, India, United States, Uruguay, Japan, United States, Japan, United States, Russia, Italy, Russia, Jamaica, Italy, Russia, United States, Taiwan, Italy, South Africa, Italy, United States, Germany, United States, Italy, Bolivia, Italy, India, Canada, Italy, India, Vietnam, Iran, India, United States, Italy, India, United States, Algeria, United States, India, United States, Argentina, India, United States, Bolivia, United States, India, Netherlands, India, United States, Italy, Canada, United States, Italy, United States, Ireland, United States, Cambodia, United States, Bolivia, United States, Switzerland, United States, Chile, Switzerland, United States, Chile, Indonesia, Morocco, Indonesia, United States, Indonesia, Switzerland, Finland, Indonesia, Italy, Indonesia, United States, Bolivia, China, Indonesia, Cuba, Indonesia, Cambodia, Bolivia, Indonesia, India, Indonesia, Italy, Chile, United States, India, Sweden, Italy, India, South Korea, Italy, Indonesia, Indonesia, Italy, India, Italy, Sweden, Indonesia, Italy, Sri Lanka, Italy, France, Italy, Belgium, France, Italy, Slovakia, Italy, Indonesia, Italy, Australia, France, United States, Myanmar, Italy, Indonesia, Italy, Qatar, France, Italy, Italy, Indonesia, France, Italy, France, Italy, France, Indonesia, Italy, Morocco, France, Italy, Indonesia, Indonesia, France, Italy, France, France, Italy, France, Ghana, Italy, France, Indonesia, Italy, Bangladesh, Italy, France, Italy, France, Italy, Indonesia, Italy, France, Italy, United States, Italy, Japan, Croatia, Italy, France, Kazakhstan, Italy, France, Italy, Tunisia, Italy, France, Iceland, Germany, France, Italy, China, Serbia, Italy, Germany, Italy, France, Germany, Italy, France, Germany, Italy, Germany, United Arab Emirates, United Kingdom, Germany, France, Serbia, Germany, France, Italy, France, Italy, Germany, France, Italy, Romania, Germany, Belarus, Italy, Germany, France, Pakistan, Italy, Germany, United States, Germany, United States, Russia, Czechia, Italy, Russia, Germany, Russia, Germany, United States, France, Germany, France, Germany, Australia, Italy, Bangladesh, France, Italy. 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 Chile. Italy. Canada. Italy. Italy. Bangladesh. United Italy. Germany. Italy. Russia. Iran. Russia. Italy. Italy. Germany. Bangladesh. Italy. Italy. Russia. Germany. France. Italy. Canada. Russia. Bangladesh. France. Russia. Italy. United Italy. United Russia. Bangladesh. Italy. France. Japan. Italy. Bangladesh. Italy. Germany. Italy. Italy. Russia. France. Germany. Bangladesh. Italy. Bangladesh. Brazil. Russia. Bangladesh. Russia. Romania. Bangladesh. Russia. Germany. Ukraine. Russia. Germany. France. Italy. Czechia. France. Italy. Bangladesh. Italy. United States. France. Italy. Russia. France. Germany. France. Russia. Bangladesh. Italy. Russia. Germany. France. Italy. Iran. Russia. France. Germany. Iran. Germany. Bangladesh. Singapore. Italy. Bangladesh. Russia. United States. Italy. Chile. Italy. United States. Russia. Germany. Chile. France. United States. Chile. Bangladesh. Thailand. Chile. Thailand. Chile. Bangladesh. Russia. Chile. Bangladesh. Chile. Kenya. Chile. Brazil. Bangladesh. Chile. Russia. Thailand. Italy. Russia. Chile. Italy. United States. Chile. Brazil. Chile. Chile. Brazil. Ghana. Chile. Italy. Bangladesh. Chile. Brazil. Italy. Bangladesh. Brazil. United States. Russia. Chile. France. Romania. Chile. United States. Italy. Chile. Chile. Bangladesh. Romania. Bangladesh. Chile. Vietnam. Brazil. Chile. Brazil. Italy. Chile. Russia. Chile. United Kingdom. Chile. Bangladesh. Brazil. Chile. Romania. United Kingdom. Chile. Spain. Chile. United States. Brazil. Russia. Spain. Chile. Serbia. Brazil. Brazil. Bangladesh. United States. Brazil. Spain. Chile. Russia. Brazil. Sri Lanka. Chile. United States. Chile. Bangladesh. Brazil. Chile. Spain. Chile. Brazil. Brazil. Netherlands. Chile. Brazil. Bangladesh. Chile. Russia. Bangladesh. Brazil. Russia. Brazil. Chile. Vietnam. Russia. Chile. Brazil. Indonesia. Chile. Chile. Bangladesh. Brazil. Russia. Brazil. Chile. Bangladesh. Brazil. Chile. in Russia, United Kingdom, Chile, in Bangladesh, Brazil, Chile, Bangladesh, Brazil, Chile, Bolivia, Chile, United Brazil, Hungary, Brazil, United Kingdom, Brazil, Russia, Brazil, Chile, Russia, Russia, Brazil, Chile, United Kingdom, Russia, Brazil, Chile, United Kingdom, Russia, Bangladesh, Timor-Leste, United Kingdom, Chile, Philippines, Russia, Chile, Brazil, Bangladesh, Brazil, United, Brazil, Russia, Norway, Russia, United Kingdom, Brazil, Brazil, Poland, United Kingdom, Brazil, Russia, Mongolia, Brazil, Russia, Brazil, Chile, Russia, Russia, Brazil, Chile, Russia, Brazil, United States, Russia, Italy, Chile, Russia, Brazil, Russia, Chile, Brazil, Brazil, Egypt, Brazil, Russia, Brazil, Ukraine, Kuwait, Russia, Spain, Brazil, Russia, Switzerland, Russia, Brazil, Venezuela, Brazil, Russia, Ukraine, Brazil, Ukraine, Germany, Ukraine, Brazil, Russia, Brazil, Brazil, Ukraine, Brazil, Russia, Russia, Brazil, Russia, Ukraine, in Brazil, Brazil, Russia, Ukraine, Brazil, Myanmar, Ukraine, Brazil, Ukraine, Russia, Ukraine, Russia, Ukraine, Ukraine, Russia, Brazil, Russia, Nigeria, Brazil, Brazil, Ukraine, Brazil, Ukraine, Brazil, Brazil, Romania, United, Brazil, Russia, Brazil, Brazil, Russia, Brazil, Kenya, South Brazil, Brazil, Russia, Peru, Brazil, United States, Brazil, Bangladesh, Russia, Brazil, Brazil, South Israel, Brazil, Russia, Denmark, Brazil, Brazil, South Korea, Russia, Brazil, United States, Brazil, Brazil, United States, Brazil, 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 Cambodia, Brazil, 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 Belgium, Brazil, 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 Nepal, Brazil, Brazil, United States, Brazil, 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 Netherlands, Brazil, United States, Brazil, Palestine, Brazil, Brazil, Morocco, Brazil, United States, Hungary, Brazil, Brazil, Jamaica, Brazil, Brazil, Norway, United, Brazil, Vietnam, Hong Kong, United States, Vietnam, Brazil, Brazil, United States, Vietnam, Canada, Brazil, Brazil, Philippines, Cambodia, Brazil, Brazil, United, Brazil, United, Brazil, Brazil, India, Italy, Brazil, 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 Turkey, Brazil, Vietnam, United States, Brazil, India, Israel, Brazil, India, United States, United States, Brazil, 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 India, Nigeria, Vietnam, Brazil, Venezuela, India, United States, United States, United Kingdom, United States, Brazil, India, Brazil, United States, United States, India, Brazil, Vietnam, United States, Sweden, India, Vietnam, Philippines, Vietnam, Brazil, Philippines, Brazil, 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 Kuwait, Vietnam, India, Brazil, Russia, Vietnam, Brazil, 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 India, Vietnam, Brazil, India, Brazil, United States, Brazil, India, Myanmar, United States, India, United States, Ukraine, Brazil, Brazil, Myanmar, Brazil, India, United States, Greece, United States, Vietnam, United States, Paraguay, India, Vietnam, India, France, Philippines, India, Philippines, Vietnam, India, Philippines, United Philippines, Philippines, United States, Portugal, India, Philippines, India, United States, Vietnam, India, Iran, Vietnam, India, Pakistan, Philippines, India, Brazil, Mexico, India, Vietnam, Brazil, Brazil, Philippines, Brazil, India, Vietnam, India, Brazil, United States, India, Brazil, 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 United States, Brazil, India, Brazil, Brazil, India, India, Philippines, Philippines, India, India, Brazil, India, India, Brazil, India, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, China, India, India, Brazil, Malaysia, Brazil, India, Brazil, Iran, India, India, Philippines, Iran, Brazil, India, Japan, Indonesia, Turkey, Brazil, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, Japan, United States, Brazil, India, Brazil, India, Indonesia, Philippines, India, 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 Indonesia, Malaysia, Brazil, Indonesia, Brazil, India, Brazil, Philippines, India, Nepal, Brazil, India, Brazil, Brazil, India, Philippines, Brazil, Taiwan, Philippines, United States, Indonesia, Ecuador, Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, India, Brazil, Brazil, Indonesia, India, Algeria, Brazil, Indonesia, India, Paraguay, Brazil, India, Indonesia, South United States, Vietnam, Brazil, Russia, Brazil, India, Brazil, India, Indonesia, Brazil, India, Vietnam, Russia, Brazil, Brazil, Vietnam, Brazil, Vietnam, Spain, Indonesia, Brazil, Brazil, Indonesia, Cuba, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Mongolia, Brazil, India, India, Brazil, Brazil, India, Indonesia, Brazil, Brazil, United States, Indonesia, Indonesia, Vietnam, India, Brazil, Indonesia, India, Slovakia, Brazil, Canada, Indonesia, Canada, India, Czechia, Canada, India, Brazil, Poland, Brazil, India, Indonesia, Brazil, Malaysia, India, Indonesia, Brazil, Iraq, Canada, Brazil, Brazil, Canada, Malaysia, Brazil, 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 Bangladesh, Brazil, Indonesia, Brazil, Canada, Brazil, Canada, Indonesia, India, Russia, Brazil, Indonesia, Canada, Peru, Brazil, Canada, Indonesia, Greece, Vietnam, Brazil, Indonesia, Brazil, Ecuador, Brazil, Canada, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, Spain, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, Russia, Kuwait, Brazil, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Brazil, Kuwait, Vietnam, Brazil, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, Mongolia, Brazil, Vietnam, Brazil, Japan, Indonesia, Brazil, Indonesia, Brazil, Turkey, Brazil, Vietnam, Indonesia, Brazil, Netherlands, Indonesia, Japan, Brazil, Indonesia, Japan, Indonesia, Vietnam, Indonesia, Turkey, Brazil, Vietnam, Brazil, Laos, Vietnam, Brazil, Indonesia, Vietnam, Brazil, NW, Indonesia, Vietnam, Brazil, Indonesia, Egypt, Indonesia, Vietnam, Indonesia, United Arab Emirates, Brazil, Indonesia, Vietnam, Norway, South Korea, NW, Brazil, South Korea, Vietnam, United South Korea, New Zealand, South Korea, Ecuador, Vietnam, Indonesia, NW, South Korea, Vietnam, Brazil, Vietnam, Indonesia, Russia, Croatia, Russia, Vietnam, Russia, United States, Vietnam, South Korea, Indonesia, Vietnam, Poland, Indonesia, South Korea, Vietnam, Indonesia, Nigeria, Vietnam, Bolivia, Nigeria, United States, Bolivia, Vietnam, Indonesia, Israel, United States, Nigeria, South Korea, Indonesia, South Korea, Israel, Vietnam, Indonesia, United States, South Korea, United States, Israel, South Korea, Cuba, Israel, Vietnam, United States, South Korea, Israel, Vietnam, Indonesia, Vietnam, Indonesia, Indonesia, Israel, Indonesia, Israel, Vietnam, Israel, Turkey, Indonesia, Israel, South Korea, Indonesia, Vietnam, Israel, Vietnam, South Korea, Vietnam, South Korea, Israel, Ukraine, Israel, Vietnam, 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 South Korea, Vietnam, Russia, Vietnam, United States, Vietnam, Indonesia, Nepal, Vietnam, Indonesia, Vietnam, Jamaica, Indonesia, Vietnam, Vietnam, Indonesia, Vietnam, Brazil, Argentina, South Korea, Vietnam, 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 Netherlands, Vietnam, Vietnam, Argentina, Vietnam, Vietnam, Taiwan, Vietnam, Nepal, Vietnam, South Cambodia, Algeria, Argentina, South Korea, Morocco, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, Vietnam, South Korea, Netherlands, Vietnam, Vietnam, Venezuela, Iran, Vietnam, Cambodia, Vietnam, South Korea, Vietnam, South Korea, Philippines, Brazil, Cambodia, South Korea, Cambodia, Vietnam, Israel, Vietnam, Vietnam, Morocco, Vietnam, Singapore, Japan, Serbia, Japan, Vietnam, Vietnam, Japan, Vietnam, Japan, Vietnam, Mongolia, South Korea, Japan, South Korea, United Kingdom, South Korea, South Korea, Spain, Vietnam, Japan, South Korea, Laos, Gabon, Vietnam, South Netherlands, Japan, South Korea, Turkey, South Korea, Vietnam, Japan, Vietnam, Japan, Vietnam, Iran, Japan, Vietnam, Jamaica, Philippines, Vietnam, South Korea, New Zealand, South Korea, Vietnam, Japan, Vietnam, Vietnam, Japan, Philippines, Chile, South Korea, Philippines, Iraq, Vietnam, South Philippines, Taiwan, Vietnam, Vietnam, Japan, Colombia, Japan, Russia, Japan, Japan, Brazil, South Korea, Myanmar, Burma, Russia, Vietnam, Indonesia, Brazil, South Korea, South Vietnam, Netherlands, South Korea, Vietnam, Russia, Egypt, Vietnam, Brazil, Canada, Russia, South Korea, Morocco, Russia, South Korea, Brazil, South Norway, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, United States, Brazil, South Brazil, Qatar, Brazil, Vietnam, Brazil, Japan, Philippines, Vietnam, Brazil, Russia, Hungary, South Russia, Philippines, Japan, Pakistan, South Korea, Vietnam, Japan, Vietnam, Vietnam, Brazil, Vietnam, South Korea, Brazil, South JN, Serbia, South Korea, Vietnam, Uzbekistan, Vietnam, South NV, Japan, Slovakia, South Korea, Japan, Vietnam, South Japan, Vietnam, Nigeria, Australia, South Korea, Brazil, Philippines, Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, Japan, South Korea, South Japan, Philippines, South Japan, Vietnam, South Korea, Indonesia, South Brazil, Vietnam, Brazil, Australia, South Korea, Japan, Philippines, South Philippines, Japan, Egypt, Brazil, Japan, South Korea, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, Japan, South Qatar, South Korea, Brazil, Japan, Vietnam, Poland, Vietnam, Japan, China, Denmark, South Korea, Vietnam, South Philippines, Brazil, South Japan, Philippines, Bangladesh, Brazil, India, Japan, Jamaica, Philippines, South Korea, Japan, South Philippines, Brazil, Japan, Serbia, Philippines, Japan, South Korea, Egypt, South Korea, Japan, South Korea, Palestine, India, South Korea, Japan, India, Australia, India, Japan, South India, Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand, South Korea, India, Japan, Australia, India, Philippines, Japan, India, Philippines, Japan, Brazil, Switzerland, India, China, Brazil, India, Austria, India, Japan, Brazil, India, Brazil, South Korea, Brazil, India, Brazil, India, Brazil, Japan, Philippines, India, South Korea, South India, Norway, South India, Japan, Japan, South Korea, Japan, South Korea, India, Croatia, India, Japan, South Korea, Colombia, India, Brazil, Japan, India, Brazil, South Korea, Japan, Brazil, South Korea, India, Japan, Brazil, India, Cuba, South Korea, Japan, Brazil, Laos, South Korea, Japan, South Korea, Greece, South Korea, South Korea, China, South Korea, Germany, South Korea, Brazil, Brazil, Hong Kong, Brazil, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, Brazil, China, Brazil, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, 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 South Brazil, Brazil, South Brazil, Poland, South Korea, South Korea, Brazil, South Korea, Brazil, Brazil, South Korea, China, Brazil, South Korea, South Korea, Brazil, China, South Korea, Brazil, Croatia, Brazil, 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 Sweden, Brazil, South Korea, South Brazil, Nepal, China, South Korea, United States, Brazil, Brazil, South Russia, Brazil, Brazil, South Korea, Brazil, South Korea, South Korea, Bolivia, South Korea, China, South Korea, Hong Kong, Brazil, South Korea, Portugal, Brazil, South Korea, South Korea, France, South Korea, Russia, South to India, South Korea, China, South Korea, Brazil, South Korea, South Korea, Egypt, South Korea, Uzbekistan, China, Brazil, Malaysia, Brazil, South Korea, Iran, Brazil, Peru, China, South Korea, China, Brazil, South Korea, Greece, Brazil, United States, Brazil, Ireland, South Korea, Brazil, China, Brazil, Italy, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, Japan, Brazil, Nigeria, Uzbekistan, Brazil, Norway, South Korea, Brazil, Japan, Vietnam, Japan, Iceland, Cambodia, Finland, Uzbekistan, Cambodia, Japan, Uzbekistan, North Korea, Japan, Poland, Japan, Russia, Japan, India, Japan, Germany, South Japan, Germany, Spain, Germany, Slovakia, Japan, Germany, Uzbekistan, Germany, Czechia,